All right, guys, I hate to do this, but I think we have to stop and have a moment of taps. You don't have to show anything, Logan. Just let it echo through the room. I think we have to have a moment of taps here to mourn the death of MAGA. Yep. MAGA is officially dead. And it has been replaced with Make Islam Great Again. Instead of Make America Great Again, it's Make Islam Great Again. Make Islam able to infiltrate America. That's a long acronym. Will that fit on a hat? What am I talking about today? For me, it's the straw that finally broke the camel's back. We're here to tell the truth. And if you can't handle the truth, then this program's probably not for you. Because I'm not paid by the White House. I'm not paid by any group. I am a listener-supported network for one reason, to put out the truth. And we have tolerated Bill Gates being dragged into the White House, along with Mark Zuckerberg, and praised. And we've tolerated Peter Thiel and Palantir and all these guys getting money, getting set up in the government. We've had a $70 billion deal, I guess, with Pfizer that's been announced in the White House Oval Office the other day. We've had the president of Turkey, Erdogan, called a good man, a strong man. We've had the butcher of Syria put on a suit and be called a good-looking guy and be brought to the White House with honors, even though he's butchering Christians, according to numerous reports all over the Middle East. I mean, it just keeps going on. And if Biden were doing any of this, people would be screaming and hollering. But, you know, this whole Trump derangement syndrome cuts both ways. Those who say things about him that aren't true and just make up crazy things, and then those who refuse to believe anything about him that is true. And apparently we have a problem with Qatar, who today they're getting access to the air base in Idaho to practice for their military. Qatar, who sends $40 billion into our universities to brainwash American students into Islam, which is anti-woman. You can rape women. You can have multiple wives. Kill the Jew, kill the Christian, kill the people of the book. That's Qatar. We had a listener from Michigan call in today who was stationed in Iraq with the U.S. military. She said, don't trust these people. Do not trust these people. President Trump at one time did not trust these people. I'll play that clip for you. But look at what came out today. And boy, a lot of people are saying, we have finally seen the light. This was the final straw for a lot of them. MAGA's dead. Does that mean we're not going to get some things we like? Oh, yeah, we'll get thrown some bones. They'll throw us some bones. And people will gobble up those bones and think we're winning. America's so back. These are people lacking understanding, reason, logic, context, discernment, the big picture. And of course, most of them don't get it. Most of them have no intellectual curiosity. Most of them haven't cracked a book and read a book in years. Most people that you know, listening friends, you have family and friends that you've tried to get to watch this program. They refuse to do it. They even tell you, I don't want to know these things. So the average American thinks, things must be somewhat good. Well, are they? I don't think they are for a lot of people financially with inflation. And there's a reason gold's popped up to over 4,000. Silver has hit the all-time high again of $50. But this is what happened today that's really got a lot of people finally saying, I think we've been deceived. It's like Catherine Austin Fitch said yesterday. Yeah, they put President Trump in because he knew he could go far further than Kamala. Well, apparently that's true. And then you got the Trump family. There's serious concerns about them with their golf courses and resorts in Qatar and the Saudi and Qatari money tied back to their son-in-law, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Hard to believe he's got a building, 666. That's the address on the building. I looked it up. And Qatar, what was it, like $1.8 billion, according to numerous articles related to that. Look at this headline, Newsweek. Jared Kushner says $1.5 billion from Qatar. United Arab Emirates came irrespective of Trump win. Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, yeah. If that had been Biden's son, what would people be saying? Houston, we got a problem. So what am I referring to before we go to Annie Cyrus and Adia? I'm referring to this little clip that came out today with Pete Hegseth and his counterpart with the Qatari government.
We also value the close cooperation between Doha and Washington that led to the signing of the Gaza peace plan on October 8th. This historic achievement underscores what can be accomplished when our nations work together with courage and trust, amongst other partners such as Egypt and Turkey.
Yeah, trust these people. We can trust each other. Qatar, who funds Hamas to kill Christians, to kill Jews. We can trust Turkey. Really? We all know about Erdogan, those of us that have studied it, and most of you have. These are your partners of trust? These are your friends?
We further welcome today's signing of the letter of acceptance establishing a Qatari Emir Air Force facility and Mountain Home Air Base in Idaho.
Now, you heard that right, folks. You heard that right. Mm-hmm. An air base in Idaho. An air base in Idaho to train Qataris, Muslim. Oh, yeah, because Muslims would never fly airplanes into a building now, would they?
This step strengthens interoperabilities, enhance joint readiness, and advance our shared defense goals.
Oh, yeah, we have shared defense goals, do we?
Mr. Secretary, together we will continue to deepen this strategic partnership in pursuit of lasting peace and shared security. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. We wish you that.
Sign now.
Sign and trade. How about that?
Yeah.
Sign and trade. I thought Pete Hegseth would resign before he did some of this dumb. I know, that's exactly right, Logan. Yeah. I said this to Annie today, and Logan just said it in my ear. I guess we think a lot alike, don't we, Logan? Logan said, I thought Israel ran America. That's exactly what I said to Annie today. I said, so much for Israel running America. I'm sure Israel's really excited about this. It seems to me Islam, Qatar, is running America. All of these stupid people out there on the internet, out there on social media, talking about Israel money. Look, folks, if Israel had Qatar's money, they'd burn theirs. Give me Saudi Arabia, the Muslims, the Arab states. Hadi was at our banquet a week ago last night speaking. And for those of you that are Vault members, you can go watch it at worldviewtube.com/vault. She talked about all the countries that she was sent to. So many countries she was sent to set up moderate networks, moderate Muslim networks to gain information, but also to try to win hearts and minds. Remember that? Winning hearts and minds. Oh. There weren't enough moderates to be able to do it, apparently. And the money that was so strong by the radicals was overwhelming. They couldn't get a network going in any of these places. And she described the people in Washington that either took the Gulf money, the Arab money, Islamic money, and then those who didn't. And you had these battles going on inside Washington in think tanks among well-known personalities. And the difference was those who understood Islam and didn't take their money, and those who either did or didn't understand but didn't care and took the money. And their influence is so great. And apparently the money is flowing to the tune of billions and billions and billions, and we are for sale. MAGA is dead. Officially tonight. Write it down. Does that mean we won't get some things we like? We'll, but overall, when all is said and done, we will look back and say this was a destructive 4 years to the Republic. From AI to the growth of Islam, the cancer in America that's not being talked about. We'll distract you with panels at the White House talking about Antifa. We'll distract you with Pam Bondi walking out talking about prosecuting people that threaten people that are from Antifa. But how about the Islamists that have threatened my family and my speakers? How about the Islamists and their friends on the Marxist side that put terrorist threats against my buildings in 2018? And those were canceled because they pulled our contracts. We have the screenshots from many of those Islamists. They won't touch it because money covers a multitude of sins. Where is the end of the IRS? Remember all the talk? We'll probably just end federal income tax. We'll probably just end that. We'll make it all up with tariffs. You've been baited and promised and baited and promised. And you get one step forward, they take 3 steps back. And Islam is taking over this country. And what has happened to Donald Trump? Because this was Donald Trump back in 2017. Here's what Donald Trump said in 2017.
The nation of Qatar.
Let me start it over and boost it loud. Here we go.
The nation of Qatar, unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism at a very high level. And in the wake of that conference, nations came together and spoke to me about confronting Qatar over its behavior. So we had a decision to make. Do we take the easy road or do we finally take a hard but necessary action? We have to stop the funding of terrorism. I decided, along with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, our great generals and military people, the time had come to call on Qatar to end its funding. They have to end that funding.
Can you imagine the things that this government has done and how they have been rewarded? How they have been rewarded. And this peace deal is not going to work. This peace deal is not going to last. I shared this today on radio. It's at worldviewreport.com. Trump's peace plan for Gaza will fail miserably. Much of the West still clings to the fantasy that Islamists can be coaxed into moderation, but Islamists only see such gestures as weakness to be exploited. Joining me now is Hadia and Annie. Guys, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having us, Brandon.
Yes, such a pleasure.
Such a pleasure. Thank you. It's not a pleasure to report on this, though, is it, Hadia?
Yes, it is.
It is a pleasure? It is a pleasure to report on this?
I'm a humble person, but I've been telling all of your, even though I'm the Middle Eastern, but apparently your camels had very strong backs. Mine broke 4 months ago. So yes, it is a pleasure to sit here and say, so how's it going, Mugga?
Yeah. Well, you have been out on the leading front of this saying we're being duped. This is not going right. So there is something when people see things like this, you go, oh, welcome. Glad you're awake. Glad you're paying attention. Because people, we have another over 3 years of this administration. If they've done this much destruction to the country with these kind of deals and relationships, Hadia, where are we going? What do you make of all this?
So I think, as I mentioned in your conference, I hope people go back and get a chance to hear that in the vault. We're in the second phase of the Islamic conquest of Christendom. And if people do not understand history, we're just doomed to repeat it. And the great scholar Raymond Ibrahim says, when people ask him about current events, he's like, I don't bother to follow any of it. It's just rinse and repeat. And he's actually exactly correct because. And
by the way, is he supposed to be on my broadcast next week, Logan? He's supposed to be with my broadcast next week, guys.
Oh, great. I actually emailed him twice. I was like, will you please go on the show?
Oh, you did? You're helping me get him? Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. And your audience will really enjoy it because it's so important to understand where we are in this battle. And I know you made a very important point about MAGA being dead, but this didn't start with MAGA. This started back with the Bushes. It's happened in every administration. You laid out how I described it. I went to 37 countries trying to build moderate networks, but we were inundated with Gulf money, and Americans taking Gulf money, and Indonesians taking Gulf money, and England taking Gulf money. So this is a problem way past Trump. The only problem in the Trump era is that he's so pragmatic and doesn't understand the theological, ideological underpinnings of what happened. It's on like steroids right now. And it's super disappointing to see that the America First doctrine didn't bleed over into that means we're going to stop the Islamist conquest of America. And that's really a travesty.
Annie?
Let me ask you and Hedy if this name rings a bell for either one of you. Second Lieutenant Mohammed Saeed al-Sharami.
Not for me.
No.
On December 6th, 2019, this is during President Trump's first term. On December 6th, 2019, Second Lieutenant al-Sharami walked into the Naval Air Base of Florida using his Glock 48. He killed 3 and wounded 8 U.S. servicemen. Who was he? He was the Royal Saudi Arabia Forces here in America doing training at the Florida base.
Great
It
point.
didn't get much attention because he wasn't supposed to. Why am I bringing this? The moment I heard this news, I said, so Trump doesn't learn from his mistakes? He kept calling Saudi Arabia an ally, though the second lieutenant watched an Al-Qaeda video on December 5th, walked in and killed and wounded U.S. service members. And later, FBI confirmed he was on a watch list because he was radicalized years before he was allowed to come into the joint training and exercise in America. Now, here's a question. What happens if one of the Qatari pilots or Qatari soldiers gets a call from their Taliban friend or al-Nasr, which is the Al-Qaeda chapter of Qatar, saying, you know what, we need an actual attack on American soil? Are we going to come back with, and no disrespect to you, Hadijan, or anyone who still thinks Trump isn't familiar with the Islamic aspect of, are we going to still say Trump did it for peace or diplomacy? Or we are going to say, so he had one Saudi second lieutenant killing U.S. soldiers in America in 2019. Then he repeated it in 2016 with Kuwait lieutenants or soldiers or whatever. The problem is we're repeating history. You're right, Hadijan. We are repeating history. But our leaders aren't repeating it because they're not familiar with it. This was under Trump administration. It's not somebody else's administration that he didn't care to go study or learn or hear about. No, we're repeating history because we Americans don't even know our own history. Forget about the Islamic history. Forget about the socialist, communist, Leninist history. We don't even know our own history. And for us, history is a week long. 1 week in its history, we forgot all about it. So yes, my Substack went a little deeper into all that information, but I strongly believe, as I said, a few weeks ago and a month before that, Trump is doing what he's doing because he owes Qatar too much not to bend. From 665th Avenue of Jared Kushner to the golf course to the weapons. Remember, Trump reopened 1 year after that very speech in 2018. He reopened the sales of F-15 to Qataris, which now in their new facility in Idaho, they will have them there. It's a genuine question. What happens if one of these Qataris decide to grab one of those F-15 that belongs to Qatar in U.S. soil and use it against us? Who's going to answer for that?
Wow. Well, this is, I don't know who Valentina Gomez is, Logan. Who is she?
Oh, she's the one who burned the Quran on her video saying, I'm going to stop Islam in Texas.
Okay. So whether I agree with her on all that kind of stuff, which I don't really think we should go around burning the Quran. I think it's more theatrics. I will say she and many others are very angry. Here's a clip from her. I'm just pulling her out because her thing popped up.
Be careful. She does a lot of cussing in her videos.
Oh, here we go. Let's see what happens.
People are obsessed with the Jews in AIPAC when the real problem are the Muslims. I voted for America first and for mass deportations, not for a bunch of Qatari Muslims flying fighter jets over our schools, homes, churches, and even synagogues. Last time a Muslim flew a plane, it took down the Twin Towers and the Pentagon. So I'll say it again. Islam and illegals have no place in America.
All right. So this is going viral. What's that?
I said, good job. She kept it clean.
Yeah, she did. This is going viral, this kind of comment and talk. I saw somebody else, the former race car driver, was her name Dana Roche or whatever? Isn't she a former race car driver, Logan? Dana? Huh? Yeah, Dana is a former race car. Am I the only one that knows this? Dana Roche, isn't that her name? She just put out something on this as well. So yeah, there are a lot of people. Why do you think, Hadia, why do you think this is a tipping point for a lot of people? Because it's just so black and white, so easy to understand?
Well, it's, and I want to go back to Annie's point about, Trump doesn't understand. I don't think it's that Trump doesn't understand. That's not what I'm saying. He doesn't care. He just doesn't see the world in theological terms. It's the same thing Barack Obama said to me. I don't get religion. So it's like our entire State Department. Everything is a deal. It's a diplomatic negotiation. They're not seeing it as the Islamization of America. They don't realize that base with, soldiers and families going through a rotation affects the entire community. Then they build a mosque, then they build a market. And then before you know it, we have these little epic cities all over Idaho. So they're just not paying attention to the effects this has on our country, on our children, on our communities. And they just don't care. It's all about money. It's all about making money. And it's really a travesty that they're just not seeing the long-term ramifications. And I think MAGA's exploding. I mean, if you see Laura Loomer's who's a diehard Trump fan, she's going bananas. I'm not voting in 2026. I can't believe they would do this. I think a lot of people feel betrayed.
She said that. She said, I'm not voting in 2026. She said that. Yes. I saw that today. I was stunned. She put this out. The people of Idaho need to revolt against the creation of a Qatari air base in their state. Technically, I don't think it's a Qatari air base. They're letting them use one of our bases.
No. Brandon, I need to be very clear. I read the whole thing.
Okay.
So here's what they're doing. They are getting permission to build their own facility inside Idaho's Air Force. Their own facility with their own standards, their own code of conduct, their own code of training, all of that. That's what makes it unique. We have had shared training and exercises with foreign countries before, as I said, Saudi Arabia, how the guy ends up killing our servicemen. But this is the first time we have allowed a foreign power of military to build their own facility infrastructure inside one of our facilities.
Okay, so that's where the conflict's coming, because I have some former military guys saying, well, you guys got it close, but they're not building a base. They're on our base. But what you're saying is they're building their own facility on our base. So it's pretty much the same thing then. They're building their base.
They are. That's why Hadia said they're going to start building their own mosque and market and halal meat as well, because it's becoming their own little town, their own little military base in there. By the way,
Can you imagine moving to Idaho? Can you imagine being one of the people that said, I'm getting out of Michigan, I'm getting out of Minnesota, I'm going to Idaho. And then your president, Trump, Make America First president, puts Qatar in your backyard, you're going, we uprooted our whole life from Minnesota, from Michigan.
And guess what? They're not just young age, military age citizens of Gaza. No, they are military soldiers of Qatar, already trained how to take you out. By the way, I should add one more thing. There is also every single contract we ever had with foreign countries, England, France, UK, Canada, Saudi Arabia, any of them. There's always, when they signed and trade, there is an expiration date. It's a 6-month period, 2 year, 1 week, whatever it is. This one has no expiration date. So as of right now, it's technically permanent.
So she says this cannot stand. Every single politician in Idaho needs to be put on notice and told that they won't get your vote unless they condemn the creation of a jihadi air base in Idaho. I'd be willing to temporarily move to Idaho to help spearhead this effort.
I'm willing to temporarily move to Idaho too. I genuinely am.
Can you imagine Laura chaining herself to the military base against Trump?
She changed herself to Twitter, didn't she? Change herself to Twitter?
Yes, she did. That's why I said it. She did. She got arrested. Can you imagine? I mean, it's just, but I've
She just flew on Air Force One a few months ago.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
She walked into the Oval Office and got some people fired. Now, I think she's been frozen out at this point, but this shows you, I mean, this woman was on Air Force One going into the Oval Office. She had access. This is nuts. And I've interviewed Laura and I've talked to her privately numerous times on things over the years. And I don't always agree with everything she says or puts out, but I'll tell you, Laura is clearly not willing to sell out truth and the country for access. I think we can all agree.
Well, two things. First of all, remember, Loomer is a Jew herself. She comes from a family that have faced the persecution of Muslims. Secondly, she is one of the few, which, as you know, I have interviewed her, talked to her, but she's one of the very few people inside MAGA who fully understand Islam. She is aware of Quran. She knows the Hadith. She knows. So it's very hard to fool her when it comes to things like this. She will draw the line.
Well, it's interesting to watch her draw the line because I really didn't think, I mean, she turned against MGT, who she was very closely allied to, but turning against Trump, I think is astounding, you know, and this administration. So I know she's always felt passionately about this issue. She called me a secret honeypot when I was a Muslim. So,
Did she really?
Yes, because she did not, she was convinced because I was a Muslim, I was working for the Brotherhood. So,
but you could take it as a compliment too. You're attractive enough to have been able to play that role. You could take it that way too, right? Because it was a left-handed compliment, Hadia.
Exactly. I mean, it was a really difficult time. I mean, it was all over the internet. I had to shut my Twitter down. It was horrible. Getting attacked by Laura is no fun. But nonetheless, MAGA's exploding. X is just filled with people saying, calm down. Singapore has a similar installation. And people are responding to that being, oh, yeah, so Singapore funds terrorism. Now we're going to compare Singapore to Qatar. And it's right. And they're right. Singapore, you can't compare Singapore to Qatar. So we have to think of the level of investment. And I think it's so important for people to remember the college campus nightmare that's continuing until this day. But shutting down college campuses, persecuting Jewish kids, closing down the ability to hold classes, vandalizing building, that is all funded by the Soros Qatar investment in our colleges. The changing of the study of history, of Islamic studies, of Middle East, of the Crusades, not explaining that it was actually the Muslims who conquered Christendom for 300 years before the Christians even responded. So all of that is done by money. It is, you know, terrorism is a horrible thing, but the Islamization of our country is worse. Yep. It's worse.
And what does it mean? What does it mean to you, Hadia, that they have so many billions of dollars? And I'll make it very clear. I'm not asking for their money and I would not take their money. and I know neither of you would. But what do you think it means when they have so much money? And I'll have you speak to it. No one has ever come to me and said, hey, Brandon, if you'll get off the Islam thing and just talk about Marxism, you can talk about the church, evangelical church, its compromise, as you did in Religious Trojan Horse. You can talk about grave influence. You can talk about Bible prophecy, teach on Revelation, teach on Daniel. Just get off of Islam, and we will make sure that your foundation has more money than they know what to do with. Now, why do you think, Annie, that is again, I wouldn't take their money, but why do you think they've never tried to come by our silence or your silence or Hadia's silence? Why do you think they've never come to do this, but they pass out money to all these other groups? Do you think it's because A, they know these people are too convicted, and B, eventually they just plan on using their influence with hate crime laws to shut us down and prosecute us? Or C, they need people like us so they can scream Islamophobic?
I would say all of the above. Plus, it's I don't like giving them too much credit, but when it's due, I have to. They are much better than us. And when I say us, I mean America. They're much better than us while studying the enemy. They are not afraid to call their enemy. They're not afraid to study their behavior, their past, their present, their future, their plan. With that being said, they have categorized influencers. They know for a fact, like they could come to me, forget about money. They could say, if you ease down or stop talking about Islam, we'll stop hunting you and wanting you dead. And I'd be like, oh no, keep hunting. Good luck getting me. But no. In my case, it's very proven that forget about money, even if they lift fatwas, I'm not going to stop. In your case, they have watched and monitored your conviction in your faith and in Christ. They know the difference. Believe it or not, they know the difference between a true Christian versus a talking head Christian, because that's how they refer to them, by the way. This is me translating their own titling, true Christian versus talking head Christian. With Hadia, I think she has seen it. Brandon, how are they going to convict her to stop? How? Like they're going to say what you experienced at the Sufi mosque or the Sunni mosque, it was hijacked. They're going to tell her that all the leaders you met with that had no interest in peace or civilization were wrong leaders. We are the exception. Or same thing with Yosama Dakdok, Sharon Hadian, Jamie Glazow, Danielle Greenfield, Robert Spencer. We're too deeply rooted into the actual facts behind what we're doing for us to give it up. Now, a lot of other conservative Christians, as I said, they call them the talking head Christians of America. That's how they refer to them. They're just talking heads. They don't have conviction. They think they can take the money, do what's supposed to be done, and then, go to church Sunday and confess.
What do you think?
So they're easier to buy.
What do you think, Hadia?
Great point. I agree with everything Annie said, and I'll just give you an anecdote. A dear friend of mine was a very senior official for Vice President Cheney in the Bush administration. And so she would describe, so I never got the Saudi royal treatment. They've always hated me. So she was giving me insight into what that was like. So she said, they would drive them out, and she's an official. She's an official representative of the vice president. And her and about 15 staff people plus a whole bunch of military guys, intelligence guys, go out to Saudi, and they basically take them out in this gorgeous tent with fur carpets, the most extravagant food, alcohol, tons of alcohol. And she says she's sitting there, and one of the officials comes and lays this beautiful mink coat on top of her. And they're like, so-and-so, we want to give you this mink coat. It looks gorgeous on you. And she looks at them and she's like, I'm sorry, I can't take the coat. And she's just explaining to me like that they very carefully were able to figure out early on who takes it and who doesn't. I can't tell you how many times I've had military guys, CIA guys tell me they used to go out and the Saudis would say, hey, take us to party. They'd come to the United States and say, let's go meet some girls. Take them to Vegas, wherever they wanted to go and party. And they said that they wanted to see not only were the Saudis partying, because this is Dar Harb. Allah doesn't live here. So when they leave Saudi airspace, they're allowed to engage in whatever debauchery they want. It's anthropomorphism. Allah's on a throne and he's over Saudi airspace. So they come here, they party, and they were trying to figure out which guys were susceptible to that. Which guys got too drunk, which guys were willing to do drugs, which guys were willing to engage with prostitutes. All of this was part of their intelligence operations, and they play us like a fiddle because so many people, this goes back to Christendom, so many people do not live pursuing holiness and righteousness as soldiers of Christ that they're easily picked off, easily bought off, easily blackmailed off.
Yes.
And I want to play a little clip here. That's fascinating what you just said. I want to play a little clip here, both of you. The road, this is called The Road to Manhattan. The documentary that was released. Have you seen it, Annie?
No.
It's a documentary released back in 2017, and it supposedly exposes the links between Qatar and the mastermind of 9/11. Let me just play a little bit here.
And handed over to the Americans in March 2003.
عام 2003.
Had it not been for KSM, there's a good chance the 9/11 attacks and everything that sort of came out afterwards would have never happened, because it was his idea that he'd been working on for the better part of a decade.
He's the one who made Al-Qaeda the dangerous and very deadly group that they became. He's the one who took the guidance from his leaders and made it happen. He recruited people, he trained people, he planned the operations, he supervised the execution of the operations. It was really the mastermind behind the attacks on 9/11.
The Daily Telegraph alleged in an article on February 1st, 2011, that came in possession of top-secret documents from WikiLeaks, which show that 3 Qataris supposedly explored the sites of these attacks, and especially the World Trade Center, the White House, the Pentagon, and the CIA headquarters. It pretends that they provided support to the perpetrators of 9/11. The newspaper says that the 3 individuals left the USA after the attacks to London and then to Qatar. The strange thing, says the Daily Telegraph, is that none of the 3 Qataris were mentioned in the final 9/11 investigation commission report. Was any of them connected to the Interior Minister Al-Thani? There is no evidence to suggest that, at least until now, despite the repeated denial by Qatar of any involvement in the 9/11 attacks. Nonetheless, the Qatari Foreign Minister, Mohammed Al-Thani, did not deny that his country is on the list of terrorism, but he pointed out that Qatar lies at what he called the bottom of international terrorism. Qatar is at the bottom of the list of the countries involved in this attack. But it is noticeable that the Qatari authorities later put Abdullah bin Khalid under house arrest because of his alleged connections and sympathy to Al-Qaeda and his supposed connection to KSM. But the decision was not duly implemented, as Qatari media outlets and social media continue showing Abdullah bin Khalid traveling to many destinations and meeting officials in the Qatari government.
What do you think of that, Hadia?
It's just like when people ask me, what's the difference between Hezbollah, Hamas, Al-Qaeda? Yeah, it's alphabet soup. It doesn't make a difference what country they originate from. It doesn't matter. It's the ideology. It is the religion. It is the global expansionist doctrine of Islam. This is a united effort to destroy the United States, which they see, along with Western Europe, as the ones who destroyed the Ottoman Empire. This is the abode of war that must be conquered. We need to understand that overarching theme and the long game they're playing when we decide anything we do. And unfortunately, nobody in the US government ever has had that perspective. And I don't think we ever will.
I mean, I don't want you, I know you have to be careful what you say because of the things you were involved in your security clearances. But when you were working in the field, what did you think of Qatar? What were you concerned about, if you can say?
The same thing. They're part of the jihadi network. They are part of the ones who fund terrorism. They fund the Muslim Brotherhood. They fund Hamas. They fund, every major terrorist effort and the propagation machine they're involved in. So it's absolutely ridiculous to try to parcel them out as a U.S. ally. I mean, sure, they'll give us money, but that money is part of the conquest.
Yeah. Annie, we hear about Antifa. There was a White House meeting this week with journalists on Antifa, which I'm happy for. I'm glad it happened. Are we ever going to see one on Muslim Brotherhood, and you two and myself and Usama and Sharam invited for one on Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas?
I love your sense of humor today. Absolutely not. No way. Let me go back to the clip you just played before I forget, and then very shortly. KSM, they're talking about on this documentary, though this documentary was about September 11, it's understandable, but Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, KSM, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed wasn't just the mastermind behind September 11. Let's remember, he was also the mastermind behind 1993 bombing, who then was in Qatar, who then CIA confirmed in 2003 that the first time after 1993 when they tried to capture him, Qatari officials gave him a heads up and gave him safe passage out of Qatar to next hiding place. So, though the start of that clip says if it wasn't for KSM, September 11 maybe possibly wouldn't be happening, I would say if it wasn't for Qatari government keeping him safe after 1993, September 11 would definitely not happen. I think that's an important point for Americans to know. This very government is now going to have a base, military base in America. Back to your question, I released a Substack yesterday talking specifically about terror list of America, how it's a business and has nothing to do with national security or safety of Americans. And yes, I have named not just Muslim Brotherhood, but other terrorist lists that never made it to terrorist list because they are still useful for U.S. government one way or another. And Muslim Brotherhood, every single time they're going to think about it, they're going to talk about it, they will consider it, but they're not going to do it. And a lot of them who did make it to terrorist list, Brennan, if you think about them, took decades for them to somehow, somebody was finally done with them. They stopped listening, like Al-Qaeda, right? Like Hamas. They stopped being useful for America and its policies, so they were pushed into the list. Muslim Brotherhood will not be, they will never stop being useful.
And that issue, especially with this Qatar deal, is dead. The designating Muslim Brotherhood is most likely dead in the water now.
Absolutely.
Which
so
means,
is Al-Nasr. So is the Al-Qaeda of Qatar. They never made it, and definitely it's going to be permanently not making it a terror list.
Which means this Islamic terrorist network and their training camps and whatnot will keep going. And I have guys in law enforcement who tell me, and I have citizens who tell me of the Islamists that are practicing with some pretty snazzy semi-automatics out in fields. Tell me of the 50 young military-age males that gather regularly and wear. And this, I'm just talking in my community, you know? Not to mention the people that are talking about this going on over the country and can tell you about it, who are either law enforcement or former law enforcement, former FBI. Some of them are still tracking these people that they tracked while they were in their job. Now they do it as a citizen. That means, I'll go back to this map. That means this kind of thing and this network, which Steve Emerson, you know, I got to get Steve back on my program.
Yes.
Steve has detailed all this for us here just in the last last year or so. I've interviewed him a couple times on it. As we wrap, here's my two questions for you both. Adia, what will we look back and say about the Trump administration? Will much of MAGA and America be disillusioned with him eventually in the future, as we are with George W. Bush? And what do you believe America will look like based on the fact we will not go after Islam in America? We will not designate Muslim Brotherhood and carry these groups, the terrorist organizations that I think they should be. What do you think America will look like 5-10 years from now? So what do you think we'll look back and say about President Trump and his administration? Will it be the way we look at George W. Bush now? And what will America be like 5 to 10 years from now when it comes to Islam?
You two probably won't like my answer, but I think the effects of what Trump has done with the Muslim world and their influence in the United States will not be felt when he leaves office. And in fact, it'll be the opposite. People are going to hail him as a peacemaker, as building the U.S. economy, bringing all this investment back into the United States. And it's the difference with Bush is that Bush's projects in the Middle East failed. And so people will not realize in the immediate aftermath of his presidency what harm has been done by virtue of his policies. So what does America look like 5 to 10 years from now, 15 years from now? We start to look like Europe. And the blame for that is not going to go to Trump. It's going to start all the way back to Bush. People are going to say it's Biden and his 20 million people, the immigrants that he let in, and that's what happened. It was the influx of the immigrants, and they're going to blame it on Barack Hussein Obama. No one's going to pinpoint it and dump that entirely on Trump. And so we're going to continue with the Islamization of America, and it took, as I said, Christians 300 years to respond. What will it take for Americans to respond? The difference with Europe is we are an armed population. So how long will Americans tolerate it before they respond? So is it the anarchists that drive us into a civil war? Is it Islam united with the anarchists that drive us into a civil war? Or does the Lord return? I don't know, but whatever it is, it does not look good. We are not moving in a positive direction as a result of the peace in the Middle East. That does not fix what's happening here in the United States and the Islamization of our country.
Annie?
I actually agree with you, Hedy John. I agree with you. And that is why I have already started a project. I don't believe he's going to finish his term. I don't. As soon as his use for the green access is done, he'll be done because next phase needs to happen. However, whenever that last day is, as of a week ago, I already started a book. It will be published after he's done with office. End of his term, earlier, doesn't matter. Because I'll make sure Americans will have a source to remember who did what when. Because you're right. There are those who will absolutely emphasize on Obama started it. Bush going to Iraq was the problem. I still hear people saying if Bush wouldn't go to Iraq, they wouldn't be provoked to come here. Lack of understanding. Even though they all played a role, but Trump has definitely, again, I hold one very personal grudge, which was saving the Ayatollah's life. That will be plastered. Probably I'm going to use font 68 bold on my book about that day. But I agree with you. Americans are not going to look back, and they don't do it today, and they're not going to look back. He's definitely not going down as the best president as he expects. But he will still be cherished and loved and, MAGA to many. But what I do disagree with, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years are big gaps when it comes to the situations right now. So I'm just going to go for the 5 years. In 5 years, I think Islamization through social media, through schools and hijrah and hudna will double itself.
Double
itself, yes. The map you just showed me, I can tell you there are 3 missing places on that map. Like North Carolina, on the list I made of the conquered cities, there's Islamville, North Carolina. That should be on the map, on your red map. Islamville. I mean, what do we even call it? Jihad base or already Islamabad, whichever your choice. They literally named their town. The city is called Islamville. There are 2 of them. So they will double their Islamization by population. more representatives in offices, more teachers in the schools, more halal and chapters of Muhammad in the books. By the way, I know your audience knows, I said Hijra and Hudna. Hijra is by immigration. Hudna is what Hamas just did. Temporarily agree to diplomacy until you can regroup or come up with a new plan to attack the enemy. That's what Hamas have been doing, or that's what Iran did. So that's what they will use. I agree with Hedia. We're not going to see, the slaughters on the street or conquer and flags coming. Not yet. Not yet. However, we will be very quietly conquered, especially if people continue covering for Trump, especially if people constantly saying, at least give him a credit, he's trying, he's doing something, the non-stop cover and excuse and hope. I had people literally message me saying, have some faith in him. Like, if you didn't know I'm a Christian, my faith is only in God. But you go ahead and have faith in him.
Well,
so as long as that's going on, the quiet conquer continues.
Well, and again, where is this?
There's a Muslim problem in the world.
But you do believe overall there is a Muslim problem in the world?
Well, there is a Muslim problem, absolutely. You just have to turn on your television set. I think Islam hates us.
Did you mean all 1.6 billion Muslims?
I mean a lot of them. You look at what's happening with the Quran, it's a pretty scary thing. There's something there that teaches some very negative vibe. They do not respect us at all. Large portions of a group of people, Islam, large portions want to use very, very harsh means. You have more than a handful of moderate Muslims, but you certainly have a problem with Muslims. If you have people coming out of mosques with hatred and with death in their eyes and on their minds, we're going to have to do something.
They're trying to take over our children and convince them how wonderful ISIS is and how wonderful Islam is, and we don't know what's happening. And we have to look at the Muslims and we have to do something. We cannot stand by and be the stupid people while our country is destroyed. I want surveillance of certain mosques, okay?
Wow. What
that
happened?
never happened.
Where did that Trump go?
Exactly.
Oh, here's where he went. The same place Candace Owen and Tucker Carlson went. On their payroll of the Islamic countries. Genuinely. Wow. I actually concluded my Substack on the Qatar base saying, you all thought that Trump cannot be bought. Well, I guess they bought him in bulk. Everybody has a price.
Montage?
Pardon?
Did you make that montage?
No, I wish I did.
That was amazing.
And remember, those speeches majority of them are from 2015 and 2016 when he's running against Hussein Obama. Exactly. The talking points were perfect, that he believed in everything he's saying. No, those were his talking point for his campaign as we're coming out from a country frustrated from Hussein Obama inviting Muslim Brotherhood to the White House, giving billions to Iran. So majority of them were talking points. Wow. But that's why I say he can't claim he doesn't know Islam, because to have the talking points, you got the hint of what you're dealing with. Now, if you choose to have different values, that's your personal choice. But he does know.
I don't believe he doesn't know. I personally never said he doesn't know. He's choosing.
Oh no, I'm talking to people. Like, if you go, I'm not inviting you, but if you check out my Facebook post and comments, 70% of excuse for him is like, oh, don't blame him. He doesn't know anything about Islam. No, he does.
Oh, that's ridiculous. No, he's making a conscious choice not to factor that stuff into the equation anymore. And I actually would be one of the people who wouldn't believe he could be bought, that he had enough money. But it's an interesting thing, because you mentioned Jared Kushner and Eric Trump and the investments. It's different for you than it is for your kids. Like, that paternal, maternal instinct to want success and prosperity for your children. Because remember, Jared's married to his daughter, Ivanka, who he loves very much, and wanting to see them grow. I could see how that would also be factoring into his calculation. Like, okay, I need to quit it on the Islam is a problem thing because I want these benefits for my family. It's a cost benefit enough.
But if what I think doesn't happen, which I don't know if I want it to happen or not, but if he does have the next year as the president, I will say, buckle up. This is about to get a lot more worse. What he was aiming at he didn't get. I shouldn't laugh, but I think it's funny. He didn't get his Peace Prize. He's going to aim for next year. That means he's going to shake anybody's hand in whatever circumstances to get that Peace Prize next year. So don't be shocked if he even becomes more soft on Islam terrorists. Don't be shocked if he makes more deals with these people to try to win that. We all know he is humanly obsessed with having the Peace Prize. And since he missed it today, he's going to try to get it next year.
liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com, and then resurrectministry.com. Is that right, Hadia?
Yes.
Hadia Mir Ahmadi. I'm working.
Wow.
Pretty
nice job, Brennan. Nice job.
What was that? What was that, Hadia? What'd you say?
Yes, that was correct. That was awesome.
Broken clock's right twice a day.
Well, Brennan, we're rubbing off on you. Soon you're going to come on air with Persian accent, throwing Farsi words around.
I know. You used her name a while ago, and it sounded like you added the word Joe to the end of her name. What did you say? What did you call her?
John.
John.
Oh, John.
It's a John,
my dear.
Oh, it means my dear?
Yes.
So
I say dear Annie or dear Brennan.
So how did you say it again?
Hadia.
What did you say to her?
John.
No, but you said...
Say the full thing. Yeah.
Hadia John.
Okay. Which means dear...
Hadia.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yes.
Well, I didn't know.
Endearment that Persians use to one another.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
That's and if it's okay, I know you're okay with this. I just wanted to let your audience know that our Christmas sale actually started.
Good.
We are running 30% off across the store. Any item, 30% off, and it is now running. LUTFstudio.com. You can get 30% off, and all the Christmas items are listed as well. So get your Christmas gift, get your ornaments. I don't know. I got some Christmas earrings if anybody's interested, because I do those. So yes, 30% off. All items. So head over to LUTFstudio.com.
And this helps fund a lot of what Annie does as well. Do you have anything you want to promote, Hadia?
Other than the beautiful diamond art above me, which is Annie's. So people should know. But yeah, my Instagram, I don't have a lot of followers. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, it would be a blessing, Hadia Mir Ahmadi. And you can find all my socials on the website, resurrectministry.com.
Excellent. Great job, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brennan. Be safe, Hadia John.
Yes, absolutely. Now you know why the John's on the end. There you go. And by the way, folks, again, where are you going to get this? You think Fox News would do what we just did? Newsmax, any of the rest of them? I don't think so. So we are your Christian Worldview Network. We are committed to truth. That's it. Reason, logic, and context. That we love to say that. Reason, logic, and context. And what we mean by that is reason. That means to discern what is reality. To discern what is reality. That's reason. And then logic. That means to test what is reality. Christians are called to do that, aren't they? To test all things. So reason is to discern what is reality. That's reason. Logic is to test what is reality. Reason, logic. And the last one, context, so that we can understand in reality. Understanding in reality. Not understanding through lies, which doesn't bring understanding, brings confusion and deception. So it's very important we have reason, logic, and context so we can discern, we can test, we can understand. Now, if you appreciate that we do that, we have to have your support. We didn't break for commercial during all that. So please go right now if you would. Worldviewfoundation.com and make a contribution. Worldviewfoundation.com. And if you'd like to gain access to all of our keynote talks from last weekend, part 2 of my interview with Catherine Austin Fitz yesterday, worldviewtube.com/vault. You can join at any membership level, worldviewtube.com/vault. All right? And we'll be right back after this break. We have a big announcement, folks. It's called Bella Melt. In the first week, you lost 3 pounds on this, right?
That is correct. Your GLP-1 is a natural hormone that's in every single one of our bodies. And your GLP-1 lets you know if you're full. It's a satiety hormone. So when your GLP is working properly, it does help suppress your appetite as well as reduce those cravings. So what it's going to do best is it's going to reduce your sugar cravings or any other cravings you have in your body. It's going to suppress that appetite. But where Melissa got the most benefit, I think, over the last week was the L-carnitine. The L-carnitine tells your mitochondria, this is where you make, we've talked about it before, this is where you produce energy in your cells. It actually tells those mitochondria to burn fat for fuel.
MelissaHouseBG.com just now introducing for the first time Bella Melt with GLP-1 Fast Action.